Do you struggle to maintain weight loss but desperately want to feel good in your own skin, confident in your clothes, and improve your overall health? If so, you're home.
Okay, let me set the scene. So the other day, I'm talking with a new client in her winning at weight loss breakthrough session, right? She was really struggling with cravings and, in particular, that whole I need something sweet after dinner, evening sweet craving thing. And she kept telling me, I just feel like I crave sweets constantly, especially at night. I'm always thinking about carbs. I never feel satisfied. Sound familiar? So naturally, we start going through, what she's eating throughout the day because that's part of our breakthrough session. Is that I do a food audit, and friends, I kid you not, her diet was basically just made up of protein bars, protein chips, protein cookies, low fat wraps, all of those healthy packaged snacks, lots of string cheese, very little fiber, produce, volume, basically very little actual food, no whole foods. So, I asked her, do you include fruits and veggies throughout your day? What's the deal? And she immediately responded with, oh, I stay away from fruit because it has too much sugar. And unfortunately, this is not an uncommon answer lately. Guys, what is going on with the fruit fear? I had to pause and take a beat for a second. We're afraid of strawberries now. We're afraid of apples. Bananas are the enemy. Meanwhile, we'll eat an entire box of high protein snack foods because they're marketed as healthy and low sugar. And friends, this is exactly what happens when this wellness culture takes out the context from nutrition conversations. Because yes, fruit has sugar. It's natural sugar, but yes, it's sugar. But fruit is not just sugar. Well, hey, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the More Than a Number podcast, where we reject diet culture and simplify the science of sustainable weight loss. So today we're talking about one of the most bizarre nutrition fears that has somehow taken over social media and wellness culture over the last really several years, but for some reason has come up more and more just in the last, I would say, 6 months to a year in all of my conversations with clients. And that is people being absolutely terrified to eat fruit. Friends, we have reached a point in diet culture where people are scared of blueberries, but are out here eating 3 high protein cookies, a protein Pop Tart, and some keto chips, wondering why they still feel hungry all day. And listen, this episode is most definitely not anti-protein. Y'all know I am the protein pusher, okay? I talk about protein constantly because protein is incredibly important for satiety, for our blood sugar balance, for muscle preservation, healthy aging, sustainable weight loss, all the things, right? But somewhere along the way, wellness culture has convinced people that fruit is bad because it has sugar, while simultaneously marketing these weirdo, high processed health foods that people tend to massively overeat because they're not actually satisfying. So today, I want to talk about the main reasons why fruit is not the enemy, the benefits of including fruit daily, why fruit can actually help us with our long-term sustainable weight loss, and practical ways that we can incorporate that fruit into our meals and snacks without fear. So I'm going to walk you through the 3 biggest reasons I think fruit deserves a place in a healthy, sustainable eating pattern. Okay? Are you ready? Let's go. Reason number 1, it provides satiety through fiber and volume. One of the biggest reasons fruit is so helpful for sustainable weight loss is because it actually helps to fill us up. We feel happy, we feel content, satisfied. It contains water, fiber, and volume. It makes our eyes happy because we see a lot of food in front of us. And those 3 things are what, make up the foundation of satiety. Before we've talked about volume eating and how important it is that our plate and our meals feel satisfying, because if your portions constantly look puny and tiny, it's depressing. We're probably not going to be able to sustain that for the long term, right? Fruit helps to create that fullness, that satisfaction, our meal volume. It gives that like natural sweetness. And when we compare fruit to a lot of those highly processed health foods, the difference becomes really obvious. For example, you can eat a little protein cookie or a protein bar and still feel hungry 20 minutes later because they're made to be hyper palatable, they're low volume, and they're super easy to overeat because they're not physically filling. So, even for myself, like I stopped buying them to have in my kitchen all the time because I can very easily, while watching TV in the evening, ping pong back and forth between the couch and the kitchen and I'll just grab a protein bar, or I'll grab one of those darn legendary protein Pop-Tart things that I think are so yummy. They are yummy, but we don't need them. So, I can just keep grabbing them, and then you can eat the whole darn box, 3 or 4 of them in one sitting in a span of a couple of hours, just hanging out, working on things or watching TV, whatever we're doing, and not even realize like, oh, I just ate all of those. And then what? We're still hungry, you know? Meanwhile, if you have an apple with peanut butter or yogurt, some Greek yogurt with berries, it's much more satisfying because 1, it makes you have to chew more, which is good. It gives us more fiber, it's more water content, it's hydrating, and it's bigger volume. Again, there's a reason that people aren't binge eating blueberries in the dark at 11 p.m. Maybe some people, and especially during the summer, we might go hard on some watermelon. But generally speaking, fruit is naturally satisfying. So it self limits our intake. And it's the fiber that matters tremendously because fiber slows digestion, it improves satiety, and it supports our blood sugar balance. It's also great for gut health. Our cholesterol can definitely help improve cholesterol, and it regulates our appetite. So we're not feeling hungry constantly. Most Americans are not getting anywhere near enough fiber. I'm probably going to butcher this statistic, so don't come for me, but I want to say the average American is consuming, adult, by the way, the average American adult is consuming somewhere between maybe 12 to 14 grams of fiber a day. It might even be a little bit lower than that. Whereas we need 28 to 35 grams of fiber a day. That's what we should be aiming for. So when we remove fruit because we're afraid of the sugar in fruit, we're kind of unintentionally removing one of the most accessible sources of fiber that we get from our diets. Additionally, most of those like protein bars and cookies, whatever, are typically between like 150 to 250 calories, right? Give or take, some more than others. So if we end up crushing 3 of them because one wasn't satisfying enough, we can end up taking in 750 extra calories. But a cup and a half of strawberries contains like 70 calories, right? And you're getting 4 to 5 grams of fiber. So it's much more satisfying. It's more food. Our brain's happy, our eyes are happy because we're eating more food. And it's just such a better like trade-off nutrition-wise for that volume, the fiber, the hydration, all of the micronutrients, which are our vitamins and minerals that our body needs, and for satiety. Basically, you're getting a large portion of food for very few calories, which is one of the reasons why, fruit is so great for sustainable weight loss and volume eating, because you can eat more for less calories. Make sense? Okay. So number 2, fruit can help reduce cravings. Reduce. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people feel that if they eat the fruit, it's going to make them crave more sugar. But honestly, for most people, the opposite is true. Because when we try to completely eliminate the sweetness from our diets, we often create this weird, like, deprivation mindset. And then eventually our cravings intensify, the restriction builds, the binge urges increase, and we feel out of control and constantly craving sweets. Fruit can actually act as a really healthy bridge there. It allows for the sweetness that we want. It gives us satisfaction, it's enjoyment, and gives that flexibility without, sending people into that all or nothing spiral. And again, context matters because it depends. Pairing protein. Let me say this. The best way to consume fruit is to pair it with a protein or a healthy fat. Now, obviously, if you don't have a protein or a healthy fat to eat with it, I shouldn't say obviously because I don't think this is obvious for some people, but if you're kind of between two choices, a Snickers bar and a banana, yes, the better choice is going to be the banana, okay? But ideally, if you're able to, the best way to consume fruit is to pair it with a protein or a healthy fat, okay? Because it improves our satiety, and that's what provides for the blood sugar balance. So, for example, like the apple and peanut butter, right? Greek yogurt with berries, cottage cheese with a lot of people like to put pineapple or whatever in their cottage cheese, a protein shake with whatever fruit you like, blended in, a pear, an apple with some almonds, whatever. That combination of the fiber and the protein or the healthy fat can be incredibly satisfying and stabilizing for our bodies. And honestly, a lot of people notice that their intense cravings decrease when they stop trying to like white knuckle their way through those overly restrictive diets. Okay. And then reason number 3 that fruit is important and that we should be including fruit in our everyday diet is that it supports our long-term health. Okay. So this is the big one. This matters so much because somewhere along the way, diet culture has convinced people that this scale or weight loss is the only marker of health, and it is not. Hence the name More Than a Number for this podcast, right? Fruit provides the vitamins and minerals, that's those micronutrients that I was talking about before, that our body needs to thrive. It gives us antioxidants, phytochemicals, and again, the fiber. All of those things collectively support our overall health and wellness, our heart health, our gut health, our immune health, our metabolism, longevity, or, healthy aging, how long we live. And when we look at dietary patterns like consistently associated with longevity and better health outcomes, fruit is always a part of it. I'm sure you've heard of the Mediterranean diet before. I definitely have talked about it before in this podcast. It's known as one of the best overall balanced diets that helps with heart health, liver health, among many other things. So that style of eating really is one of the best ways, or seen as through data and research, one of the best ways. And fruit is most definitely a part of that Mediterranean diet. So it's always included, it's never eliminated. Now, let me make this clear. Can someone technically lose weight and never eat fruit? Of course. But the question that I always ask is, do you want to just lose weight, or do you want to just see the number go down on the scale? Or do you want to build a long, healthy, sustainable life, right? Because those are not the same thing. And one of the problems with wellness culture right now is that people become so focused on getting their macros in and how many grams of sugar it is, and God forbid carbs, and all the labels to these certain foods, that they stop looking at the overall dietary patterns. A banana is not the reason someone is struggling with obesity. I promise you, that's just not how this works. So let's make this practical, right? Because I never want you to leave my podcast thinking, okay, cool, but now what? So fruit's not evil. Now what? Here's a few simple ways to include fruit on the daily with your meals and with your snacks. So breakfast, you could have Greek yogurt and berries. If you have eggs, have a banana with it, cottage cheese with fruit, a smoothie with your protein. With your snacks, always have, an apple and peanut butter. You could do grapes and a cheese stick, berries and some almonds, whatever you like. With dessert, make it your dessert after dinner, because sometimes fruit can actually satisfy that desire for something sweet after dinner without sending people down that spiral. For more sugar, when they choose the highly processed desserts. So we're heading into summer now. Gotta love watermelon in the summer. Absolutely elite. One of my other favorite things to have, especially, I live in South Florida, so it's kind of always summer here, but I don't know, feels better when it actually is summer. Frozen grapes. If you have never done the frozen grape thing, I promise you, do it. One, because I could sit down and kill a bag of grapes in one sitting with no problem. So they're very easy to kind of just be overeating. And so when you put them in the freezer and you eat them, it takes more time because they're frozen. You can't eat them very fast. And so you feel satisfied sooner, and you end up not eating 17 servings of them. You can just have your one or two and feel good and feel satisfied. Berries with a whipped topping, some Cool Whip or something on top. Delicious. Okay, so one of the saddest things about diet culture is that it convinces people to be scared of food that was never really the problem in the first place. So I've said it before a million times on this podcast that I cannot stand fear mongering, especially when it comes to food, but even more especially when that food was never even the problem. I promise you that people have not gotten to the point of being extremely overweight or obese from overeating fruit. I promise you. I see people spending so much time and mental energy trying to avoid bananas, apples, pineapple, God forbid the grapes, not the grapes. It's too much sugar, while completely avoiding that cycle of chronic overeating, emotional eating, a lack of protein, not enough fiber, sleep. Hello, not enough sleep. That's a whole other podcast episode that we'll talk about. Stress, unmanaged stress, the intake of these ultra processed foods, and those binge and restrict cycles that we just keep going on. We have to stop zooming in on these single foods and start really looking at the big picture, because sustainable weight loss is built through consistency and balanced meals, realistic habits, getting enough protein, getting enough fiber, staying hydrated, moving our body well enough, our sleep hygiene, managing our stress properly. All of those things make up sustainable weight loss. Not avoiding fruit, I promise you. That's why it's so, so important to me inside of those breakthrough sessions that I have with you guys to pinpoint these areas where you may have great intentions, but you're unnecessarily stuck, because so many women are walking around terrified of foods they never needed to fear in the first place. Inside the breakthrough session, we're simplifying nutrition, we're identifying where you're getting stuck, and we're building a realistic strategy that actually works in real life, in your life. Not fearing food, not extreme restriction, not diet culture, nonsense. Practical, realistic nutrition. So let's recap today's episode, right? Fruit is not the enemy. Let me say it louder for the people in the back. Eat the fruit, please. Yes, fruit contains sugar, but it also has fiber, water, micronutrients, antioxidants, volume, joy, and satisfaction. And those things are super, super important. So including 1 to 3 servings of fruit daily can help improve satiety and fullness, reduce cravings and that restriction mentality, support long-term health and sustainable weight loss. Okay. Those 3 things, biggest reasons. And one of the best things that you can do is pair fruit with a protein or a healthy fat. Again, eat it if you have the protein or the healthy fat, but the best way to do it is with that. Creates more balance, satisfying meals and snacks. So eating fruit is not going to make you gain weight, I promise. Being terrified of whole foods while constantly chasing those hyper palatable, health snacks is not helping people at all. I promise you, it's not. We have to stop fearing food and start focusing on overall patterns, balance, consistency, and long-term habits. All right, friends. I hope this episode blessed you and added value to your journey. If it did, would you hit that subscribe button and share it with somebody who needs to hear this? And if you haven't yet, I'd be so, so grateful if you took a second to leave a quick written review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I love you. God loves you. I will see you right back here next week.